In general, I have a love-hate relationship with Luffy's sort of act first and think about it later attitude, but ultimately it's the end of this chapter that got me really thinking. One Piece, chapter 339, Rumors. Oh.
And the plot thickens. Well, hello, my brothers and sisters of the Nerd Nation. I, as always, am Jim, here to bring you another review on the awesome and kind of just awe-inspiring, intricately woven, so many different plots dangling, it's hard to sometimes keep them all in order, Tale of One Piece. Our last chapter, of course, saw us with Luffy and Nami actually being able to get away from Franky and the Galila foreman. The Dock 1, though, was pretty much decimated and destroyed, and really that's kind of where we left things off over here. You know, and we wind up picking up pretty much right where we left off. We see initially Luffy and Nami have in fact gotten away, at least for the time being, but Luffy is still hell-bent and determined to go and talk to the ice guy, as he calls him, Mr. Iceberg. So they wind up, you know, they're up on top of this, you know, kind of wall, parapet type of deal on this little castle-looking area, and he can see, connected to Dock 1, what they presume is the mansion that that Iceberg is in, right? So Luffy's like, all right, man, I'm going to get in there and I'm going to go talk to him. And Nami's like, all right, but just, remember that everybody in the whole city is after us. So make sure that you're calm and cool and quiet and all that type of stuff. Sneak around, right? Luffy's like, okay. So he goes and just flings himself across and right through a giant frickin' stained glass window. The funny part about Luffy is that he obviously has that just sort of blinders mentality of just sort of doing things the way he wants to do them. Unfortunately, though, sometimes it winds up coming at the cost of his crew and what have you, because he winds up putting them in perilous and dire situations because of that, you know. Certainly, he could have been a little bit quieter and probably drawn a little bit less attention, and things may have wound up working out differently. Nonetheless, so he comes crashing through, and of course, you know, everybody is freaking out. Oh my God, where are the Galila foremen? Because these guys are like the strong men, you know, that they have, and of course they have. We found out in the last chapter they're going to go and they're kind of putting out an APB and getting Galila workers to pretty much surround or go at key checkpoints throughout the island to make sure that the Straw Hats don't escape. Especially with this Aqua Laguna on its way in. So, nonetheless, so Luffy is running around the mansion, and they're trying to get a beat on him and what have you. And then, as if it was a kind of a surprising turn of events, all of a sudden, Khalifa comes out over this balcony at the behest of Iceberg, and and says, hey, Straw Hat, that type of thing. And next thing you know, there's a bunch of guys that have come up by the room that Iceberg's in, and Khalifa's standing outside the door, and they're like, did you see the Straw Hat? And she's like, no, he hasn't been here, mister, but try to keep it down, Mr. Iceberg is trying to heal up and you need to be quiet, right? So they're like, okay, fine, well, he's got to be somewhere around here, and they go taking off. And then we see that obviously he let Luffy in, and Luffy's like, geez, with all these people looking for me and everything, I don't know why you would have let me in. Something to that effect. And Iceberg says, I figure that if you're trying to kill me, you wouldn't go and come through a big crowd of people to do it. So anyway, so Luffy's just kind of like, listen, I wanted to come talk to you because we didn't have anything to do with that. We didn't try to kill you, And if he says he's sure that it was Robin, though. And Luffy's like, but how can you be so sure? And he's like, I don't have time for you, boy. And but there's just something I brought you in here to ask you, I want to see Nico Robin. I want to see her, one more time and ask her why she did this or talk to her, something to that effect. And anyway, it winds up ending with of course there being a gunshot going off and Luffy having to take off over here. So Iceberg, he tried to make a play, something with, for some reason or another with Luffy, and I don't really know what the deal is. I don't know what the guy's hiding. The plot's obviously thickening with that. We don't, find out exactly at this point yet, but obviously if it's something that Nico Robin or the CP9 or somebody, the world government was coming after him for, it's got to be something pretty heavy duty. I don't know if it's a person, if it's some kind of weapon, if it's a ship that he's been working on. I have no idea. Nonetheless, though, very, very cool, intriguing stuff. And that's really kind of the first half of the chapter. After that, we wind up getting Franky. We see Franky, of course, in his sidekicks there. And he winds up going into a part of Water 7, the downtown district, and goes into this bar, Blue Nose, right? He knows the guy there. He comes in. He's going in to refuel, right? And apparently to refuel, I guess he just needs sodas. He gives him some soda bottles, and the dude's filling it up. Nonetheless, though, he winds up running into that Kokoro.
and that's if you remember, that's kind of the sort of weird looking, almost looks like almost looks kind of like a fake doll, like a toy soldier or something like that. But Kokoro was the one that was actually they first met on their way. The Straw Hats first met on their way into Water 7 at that switching station for the Puffing Tom, for the train there. And obviously Kokoro has come back in. They were on their way back in a couple chapters ago because of the impending Aqua Laguna that was coming. So nonetheless, though, they sit there, Franky, and it's kind of funny because Franky's just like, super, and, oh my god, that old hag. And if you remember right, too, Iceberg said when Luffy delivered the note from Kokoro, that it was okay to help them fix their ship or what have you. He knows her, but he's just like, oh yeah, she's just a drinking buddy of mine or whatever. So anyway, Franky's kind of funny because he's kind of turned off by the whole idea of her just even being around him, And it's so funny because he's just like, oh my god, I thought you were like an ugly statue or a mannequin or something. But the whole point of the conversation is number one, we see that it seems like he refuels seemingly on caffeinated soda, I guess, a sugar-filled soda. I'm not really sure. I was thinking that he's a cyborg, actually needed like fuel. You need to go and like put some unleaded in or what have you, some diesel. But that doesn't seem to be the case. But as he has this conversation with Kokoro and he's talking about what's going on and what happened and everything else and the pirates and, because Kokoro's talking about how Aqua Laguna's coming, have you waterproofed your house? And he's like, no, I don't have a house anymore, but it's just been kind of a bad week, blah, blah, blah. And really what winds up coming down to is Kokoro is aware of CP9 and even says to Franky, you don't really think that it's too obvious that the Straw Hat pirates had anything to do with it. These pirates had anything to do with it, right? And he's like, what do you mean? Do you have some inside information, hag? And she's like, no, but I mean, think about it, CP9. And he's like, CP9 is just a rumor, just a legend or whatever. And Kokoro explains, no, CP9 is very much real. It's just a lot of times when something happens, they're so good at covering their tracks and kind of being this shadowy type organization. And I don't know what they're linked to. I don't know where they come from. To tell you the truth, in a lot of ways, it kind of reminds me of Crocodile and his whole, organization, his Baroque Works type deal. Just this very secretive. Now, Baroque Works was obviously a little more well-known. Everybody knew it was there. Everybody knew they were established. They just didn't know who the leader was. But it seems like a similar shadowy, type of organization with assassins and what have you. Nonetheless, though, still, conversation was kind of cool to go and see, and it's kind of neat to see that somebody is smart enough to actually understand that the Straw Hats are not involved, and that is just kind of the obvious answer with things. So hopefully, this kind of helps to turn Franky's mind around a little bit on that too, and think outside the box and think, hey, there's got to be more to it than this, right? So we wind up getting a little bit of information about that, and not really so much about CP9, but really the last couple pages of the chapter I thought were the most interesting. We wind up seeing it's in a vacant warehouse, and somebody is speaking to a shadowy figure, speaking to Nico Robin, and says, "You did well." And he's, "Yeah, right. Of course, you've also become wanted by the entire town, Nico Robin." And then she's like, "True, but it's only temporary. The important thing is tonight, And anyway, and then we get, let's see here, get into Iceberg's mansion again. If things go wrong, feel free to erase all evidence. I'm assuming that means, killing him and whatnot if need be. Someone named Tom had it originally. Among his followers, Iceberg is the only one still living. I don't know if that has any connection to the train that they nicknamed, or that they named Puffing Tom, but anyway, whatever. Nonetheless, though, however much he pretends he's innocent, in the name of CP9, we will not fail to steal it tonight. Whatever happens, remember that this is a mission for justice. So Nico Robin is actually with them, it looks like. I don't know if I don't know what the deal is, man. I'm gonna hold judgment for right now, and I think probably only because I really like Robin, and I want to feel like there's some kind of reason behind this. I want to feel that she's doing the wrong things for the right reasons, or that she's being misguided, or that she's had to do this somehow against her will. I don't know. They have some kind of blackmail or something they're hanging over. I don't know if that's the case. That's what I'd like to believe right now, though. But ultimately, that's where the chapter ends over here. So we don't really get a whole lot of anything going on except for whatever this mysterious thing is that Iceberg's hiding. Apparently, he's the last one of this Tom fellow's followers that's still alive, that has some knowledge of it. So, man, boy, I tell you, the shit is getting thick in here. So, my chapter question for you, though, brothers and sisters, because of the fact that I don't really want to get too much into things as far as what can you tell me, I guess, right now at this point about CP9 without completely ruining things? What are your thoughts on CP9 and what we've learned about so far. I don't know who's in charge of this shadowy organization. Obviously, it was just a shadowy face of a figure that we saw. But Nico Robin clearly seems to be on board with them, whether against her will or not. She didn't seem like she was tied up or anything like that. So, man, I tell you, it's very frustrating because, like, I want to know, but at the same time, you can't really ask the question because you don't want to, you obviously don't want to get those spoilers. So, so ultimately, if there is anything that you can tell me about your thoughts on CP9 and what we've seen and heard so far, and then also, I guess, thoughts on the interaction, the conversation between Kokoro and Frankie. For me, I thought that it was good. I thought that it was nice to finally see somebody that seems to have a head on their shoulders that's like, hey, this is just, it's too good to be true. It's not the obvious thing all the time, you know what I mean? There's got to be something else afoot here, and hopefully that also helped to kind of sway Frankie, or at least start to sway Frankie, at least get him thinking about the possibilities that it may not be the Straw Hat Crews that are the most evil people in the world, you know? So, definitely a very cool chapter, though. Remember to leave your answer to the question or questions that I asked in the comments down below. Feel free to hit the thumbs up, the like button if you should think that I deserve it, and subscribe if you haven't done so already. We will look forward to catching all of you in the next one, Nation. Well, hey now, why don't you go on over there and check out my other channel and follow me on the Twitter and the Facebook as well.